All right. Welcome back, guys. We're doing a reacting thingamajig. Scoot over a little bit. This is my friend Jordan. He likes it when I do that. Anyway, I had my girlfriend Lucy send me a link to a random video, and she sent us, I spent a day with school shooting survivors. Okay.
School shootings, devastating attacks at an educational institution involving the use of firearms. The earliest recorded school shooting in the U.S. dates back to 1764, dubbed the Pontiac's Rebellion School Massacre. Since then, school shootings have unfortunately...
1764?
Yeah, it runs deep in our blood.
They were using like muskets, like they were. That's amazing.
Unfortunately, only become exponentially more common, with incidents like the Columbine, Virginia Tech, Parkland, and Sandy Hook shootings receiving mass media coverage and serving as primary examples for the demand of increased gun control. But most school shootings do not receive such widespread coverage. In just 46 weeks of last year, there were 45 school shootings, and firearms are now the second leading cause of death among American children and adolescents after car crashes. This discussion is so heavily
They said that like so quiet after car crashes. That's interesting.
Focused here in the U.S. due to the unfortunate reality that the U.S. has had 57 times as many school shootings as all other major industrialized nations combined. My name's Anthony Padilla, and today I'm going to be sitting down with survivors of school shootings to learn what it's really like to live through such a traumatic and earth-shattering event. Were these survivors able to come out the other side of this horrifying event with a newfound drive to experience all the joy that life has to offer? Or do they live every day frozen with fear and deeply tormented by the inexplicable evil they've experienced at the hands of one of their peers?
It was so dramatic.
Hello, Alea.
Hi.
Will.
Hey, Anthony, how you doing, man?
Sadie.
Hi, Anthony.
Why is this the intro to everyone?
What do you mean?
Like, this is about school shootings, and they're just like data, servers, code, just editing.
Thank you so much for coming on here and teaching me about the world of surviving a school shooting.
Thank you for having me.
How would you describe yourself? A survivor, someone who simply experienced the unthinkable?
I would say someone that went through a school shooting.
I do classify myself as a survivor.
At this point now, I don't label myself as a school shooting survivor. I am, but it's like not my identity.
Can you tell us what year and what school you were attending, and if you can recall the events leading up to this incident?
So I went to Columbine High School. This school shooting happened on April 20th, 1999.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Our school shooting happened on February 14th. The year was 2018.
I went to school at Reynolds High School in Troutdale, Oregon in 2014. I remember being the last day of school. This morning I was going into my 7th period classroom, which was my gym class. And I remember seeing my gym teacher running from the gym building to our main building. I just kept walking, I didn't hear anything, I didn't think anything was wrong. And I remember seeing all my classmates just running to the back of the gym. 60 kids just sitting in this hallway, like terrified, hearing people saying that there was a shooter, that they heard shots, but like in that moment it's like you don't believe it. And I remember hearing someone talk about seeing someone in the gym, like looking around for people, and with a gun, and I was kind of like stunned by that. They walk out the gym, and I remember hearing one gunshot. That's when it finally like struck me that something was actually happening. The shooter had a specific plan, and that plan was to kill all of the kids that were in my gym classes. He had a journal that said that he wanted to kill and shoot all of the sinners. In his mind, we all deserve to die, and it was the one person that did pass away, unfortunately, was the one that actually saw the gun and started it before the shooter could do any more harm.
They alerted other people.
Yeah, it was because of them that we all pretty much survived, because the plan was to wait until we were all in the gym together and then just go at it.
So it was the last period of the day. It was actually my only class that I had in the 1200 building. So my teacher had us present our projects, and then we began to work on our lesson on our computers. And I'd say 5 minutes into me sitting at my desk is when we heard the first round of shots. The entire class just immediately paused. And then we heard the second round of shots, and that's when we immediately all got up and ran. And half of us ran to the corner that is designated for an active shooter drill. I remember sitting down in the corner, still hearing my classmates saying, "It's just a drill because you guys know we're supposed to have a drill." And said they were going to make it really realistic this time. And then I remember telling myself, well, if this is real, I'm very petite. So if I were to get hit anywhere, I probably would not survive. So let me get behind something. And the only thing that was in front of me was my classmate Nicholas Doret. And I scooched between him and the bookshelf.
I'm sorry.
She used to hold me as a body shield.
It's not funny. I just was not ready. I thought she was gonna say like a desk or something.
Yeah.
Like something that wouldn't necessarily help, but like it's something. I was not ready for that.
I wanted to call my mom. And as I lifted my thumb to press the green call button, is when the shooter started shooting into my classroom. I started to see red trickle onto like a puddle of red on the floor. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's just a paintball gun. This is just not a funny senior prank, but it can't be anything other than that. And I look up and I see my...
Paintball guns don't produce that much, and if they do, it's a splatter. It's like...
Look, if you're trying to rationalize why you're not in imminent danger, your brain will take like anything to try and rationalize it. And if you
I
haven't,
don't know. I'm pretty much. I'd just be like, oh yeah, we're just school shooting. That's fun.
if you haven't played paintball before, I could see that being
Yeah, maybe.
like a logical jump.
Maybe. I don't know. I highly doubt it. Let's continue.
classmate Helena slumped over on the wall, and it snapped to me that she was dead. And as soon as I recognized her,
His
it
face.
was when Nicholas Loret in front of me started to slowly
She's like calmly
fall to the ground.
like
And I just
telling the
remember
story,
telling
and Anthony is just over there like he hasn't done interviews that are like worse than this. But this is all he does. He just does interviews.
myself to match every movement of his body, and I followed
I think
his
what
body
interview
to
we
the
should
floor,
look at
and
is the one where the person says both emotionally or physically and spiritually, "I'm a wolf." Arr!
That was him.
I think so. I think that was him. Because he started this stuff back in like Vine era.
I laid underneath him until the shooter moved on to the other classrooms. I remember laying
Wait.
there and
Hold up. She laid underneath the white guy?
we fall to the ground, and I just in front of me. And as soon as I recognized her, it was when Nicholas Loret in front of me
Nicholas.
started to slowly fall to the ground. And I just remember telling myself to match every movement of his body, and I followed his body to the floor, and I laid underneath him until the shooter moved on to the other classrooms. I remember laying there, and I was looking at the
She low-key used him as a body shield.
Yeah.
Damn.
floor because I wanted to know when I needed to hold my breath so I can look as dead as possible if the perpetrator got closer. And I was just, of course, in a state of shock, but I was still not safe because I was in complete view of the door. I don't know how many shooters there were, who it was, what they looked like. So two of my classmates pulled me behind a filing cabinet. I'm calling my parents, I'm telling them my last goodbyes because, of course, I'm not thinking I'm making it out alive. I wanted to make sure that they could hear me in the middle of all the noise. So I didn't hold my phone like this. I held it like this, saying I love you, and then the call dropped. And my mom told me she was hysterical. Like, she went outside the house and started screaming. And then my dad told me there was one point where he thought I did die because he heard the bullets and then the phone dropped. So he thought I got shot. So both of my parents didn't think I made it.
I went to the library before school and hung out with a couple of friends. We all kind of went separate ways to class, and so took a couple of tests in various classes. I felt like I nailed the test. I was done early, and so I just
I low-key thought that he was a teacher.
No.
I low-key thought he was a teacher whenever he first
Jacob,
came
the
on.
shooting was
He's just
23
old.
years ago.
Yeah, okay.
10 minutes to stop and think, and I actually stopped and I said a prayer. I felt like this need to pray. It was not like a premonition of anything bad to come, but I just felt kind of a little bit of gratitude. And I went and I met my buddy at his locker, and we walked down to the lunchroom. Then we went outside to the same place where we sit outside, like where we eat lunch every day when it's warm. We were sitting out there hanging out, and then all of a sudden we heard some fireworks going off, and so we were like, hey, there's probably a senior prank going on. Let's go see what they're doing. We got up and we took a couple of steps in the direction where we heard the firecrackers, and we saw shooters on top of the hill. And one of the very first things I saw, like the most vivid memory, is just seeing the dirt flying off the ground, and just like, I have that like freeze frame in my head, and I looked up and I see a smile on this guy's face, a kid named Sean Graves, and he just instantly drops to his knees and starts screaming. I shot him in the back, and I shot him again, and I just all of a sudden it's like, this is not a
Wait,
senior prank.
hold up.
I shot his knees and starts.
Sean Graves, Columbine survivor. So he got shot in the back twice and survived?
I guess.
That's
Screaming.
fucking sick.
I shot him in the back, and I shot him again. And I just all of a sudden it's like, this is not a senior prank, and it got really real. Ran inside that door that I had ran out or come out of for lunch, which is probably just 5-10 feet away. And then the very first person I saw when I ran inside was my track coach, Dave Sanders. And so I said, hey, coach, there's shooting going on outside. And then Dave starts telling a bunch of people, and one of the people I see very next is a guy that's on my basketball team. He was just getting ready to walk out that door. I was like, don't go. There's a shooting out there. And he's like, stop BSing me. I'm like, I slammed his tray down. I said, I'm not joking. Let's go.
It almost sounds too unthinkable to even be a reality.
It was like walking into a totally different world. And I was in there for maybe a minute, and then the energy flipped, and you could see the fear in their eyes, and that fear in their eyes like transferred to other people. Like, what is going on? You know, I took him and a few other buddies, and I was like, let's go to the bathrooms and hide. We went into these bathrooms, and they were kind of behind the cafeteria in this like hidden little spot. We all got into one stall and climbed up on the toilet because we didn't want the shooters to come in and see our feet. Then I stopped and I said a prayer, just like, help my sister to get out of here, help me to get out of here, and be safe. And you know, while I was praying, I heard an explosion, and it like shook the wall. You know,
That place is.
There's a dude in the stall next to him just ripping ass.
You're not right.
That's immediately where my mind went. It was this dude like ripping it. Like you did yesterday.
You're not right.
It's no longer safe.
and the moment we walked out of the bathroom, there's a next to it, and it goes up into the stage. And it's actually like my elementary school choir teacher, who's now teaching at the high school, opened that door up, and he's like forever a hero to me. Because like if he doesn't open that door at that time, like I'm trapped a little bit. And we just slowly are walking through this backstage area. We peek out the hallway, and when we get to the top of the auditorium, we actually hear gunfire down the hallway. Look, it's kind of clear, so we just run, book it, and then we just start hightailing it to an apartment complex that was nearby so we could call our parents.
Can you even begin to describe the fear you felt while the shooting was occurring, or is that something so painful you tend to kind of block it out so you don't have to relive it?
I don't know if I really felt a sense of fear as he was shooting into the classroom. It was more so a sense of survival. And then I felt the fear when he moved on to the other classroom, because I guess that's when it registered in my mind.
You know, the pain for me isn't the fear. The pain is the loss. The loss of like my classmates, my track coach, and then those people who died. So like the pain isn't like what I had to go through in terms of like being afraid for.
If they were to like, I'm actually sad too, because if they were to like cast a live action Jimmy Neutron, this dude could be Carl Weezer. Look at him.
So like the pain isn't like what I had to go through in terms of like being afraid for a small period of time, you know. But it was terrifying, you know, like just, you know, thinking I could die anytime.
Was there ever a moment where you thought this might be it? I might not make it out of here?
I remember at one point I just started talking to God and I told him, please just make this as painless as possible. And I don't want to feel
Just accept
any
it.
pain. I don't want to suffer.
You were convinced that those were your final moments.
I am shocked at how accepting I was of it. I think in the moment there was no room for survival or surviving. Like, okay, this is the end.
Rescue.
Luckily, my high school was very, very, very close to a police department. They showed up, they found us in the back, and pretty much with rifles in their hands, started yelling at us to like come out single file, get into a line with our hands up, and then they led us out by running across the parking lot to a church that was across the street. After that, we all just stood there for hours waiting for them to figure out how to get us to another parking lot for our parents to pick us up.
I'd say within 10 to 15 minutes is when help finally came. And I remember hearing them like break the rest of the glass in the window and open the door and say Broward County Sheriff's Office or something. And then I got up from behind the filing cabinet and I remember them yelling, don't look up, down, left or right, just look straight ahead and run outside. And I remember passing 3 more bodies on the way in the hallway. And then I got outside and got in my mom's custody
How does she
around.
know their bodies? She was told to look straight ahead. They said not up, down, left, or right, straight ahead.
Jacob.
She just disobeyed orders, I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
There's a reason that they tell them not to look up, down, left, or right.
Yes. Nobody's going to follow that order.
Yeah. I wouldn't either.
Exactly.
9:30 that night.
Do you remember what it felt like when you realized for the first time that you were safe, that you were going to be okay?
I didn't realize I was safe until I was in police custody and they were taking my clothes and picking body matter out of my hair. And at that point, I knew everything was okay.
What?
Safe until I was in police custody and they were taking my clothes and picking body matter out of my hair. And at
I think that's the moment I would lose my mind. Like, I think I'd be pretty much in denial, like, up until that point, just the
Yeah.
sheer shock of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I was sitting in a police station and they were, like, taking pieces of my friends out of my hair, that's the moment I think it would hit
But you know
me
what
and,
really
like,
sucks?
What?
Is that like her hair is expensive. Like us, like little white boys, we just go and get a haircut for like $5. But like her hair, it costs like a couple hundred every time she goes to get it done. She has that, hard to deal with, like African hair.
Mm-hmm.
So it sucks, especially whenever there's human in it.
Jacob, I doubt she cared that her hair was messed up.
I'm just saying, there is a financial loss of this.
that point, I knew everything was okay. Yeah, that was a long time of not knowing what's going on.
Well, you didn't know how many casualties there were. You didn't know how, bad it was, for lack of a better term. You could only fill in the blanks in your head and assume it was the worst.
Yeah, I didn't know how many people died until like 8:30 that night. And I remember my phone was literally on 1%. And I got a notification on the top of my screen that said, Parkland shooting. 16 casualties, numbers to rise.
So you were learning when the rest of the world was learning.
For the most part, we learned things with the rest of the world.
It wasn't until I was with my mom and my dad that I actually felt safe. I didn't feel safe like waiting outside, just sitting there like a duck waiting to get shot. Like, it wasn't until I felt the comfort
Is
of
it like
my...
snowing in this? I'm assuming this is
That's
stock
stock
footage,
footage.
but like,
like
is it snowing?
I think so.
Are those bugs?
stop waiting to get shot.
Like
Like, it wasn't until I felt the comfort of my parents
Right.
that something clicked.
What did your parents say the first time you saw them? They must have been really going through it.
The first thing that my mom said to me was, it was Emilio. Emilio being the kid that got shot. My mom said to me was, it was Emilio.
Why is this close up on her mouth? Why is there a close up on her mouth?
Emilio being the kid that got shot. And I got teary-eyed, but I tried to like keep it together.
It was like 9 o'clock, and she came to the Marriott and got me, and I just remember hugging her. And the detective was like, "Don't touch each other because she's still evidence," or something like that. And I got upset, and I was like, "Y'all literally have my clothes, y'all have my pictures, y'all have my statement. What else do you need?" Like,
Yeah, let me hug my mom, please. The only thing
Yeah.
that might possibly make me feel okay in these moments.
Yes, so I was very upset. But thankfully, my
Shouldn't they have like a dog?
What do you mean?
Like a emotional support dog for like people that are victims of stuff like this.
Jacob, they took her clothes and were holding her and said she couldn't hug her mom because she was evidence. Do you really think they cared about her emotions at all in that moment?
No, but I'm just saying that they should.
No, they
I
should.
would hug a golden retriever. Like I would hug. Okay. He did enjoy that.
mom calmed me down, and we went home. And I just remember going home, and everything scared me. Everything scared me. I probably slept with my mom for like 3 weeks after the shooting.
Do you remember the first thing you did when you got back home?
I probably got home
I too did. Okay, let's go.
8 or 9 that night, and the shooting was at like 11. And so I just remember being like emotionally exhausted, just like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. And I just fell asleep.
Yeah, you spent all that time not just, being afraid for your life, but then also being afraid for the safety of everyone that you know and love on campus too.
Absolutely.
Hop straight in the shower because, of course, I had blood and stuff on me.
I feel like it must have almost felt like it wasn't real, but then you have that confirmation.
She's probably washing her hair
that
for
it's
like
actually
hours.
real.
Sometimes it's really hard to just recognize that actually happened, let alone like in those few hours and days afterwards. It was really hard.
How has your day-to-day life changed since the incident?
Those first moments, you're not like focusing about work or school or anything. You just need to be around the people that love you and just be together and try to like find some joy. And then there's like this transition of getting back to school and just trying to like pick up life again. There's the next couple of years after that of like, I think about this shooting every single day. It's like a major part of my life and I can't get it out of my head, but I have to like focus and like there isn't as much of the excuse anymore that, oh, I went through this, like you gotta get going, and so, but I still didn't feel healed.
How long did it take before you returned back to school?
I believe it was 2 weeks, and then we had 1 week back, and then the week after that 1 week back, it was spring break. So it was very not that bad. We had 2 emotional support dogs in the class.
There
The
we
majority
go.
of my graduation class can say we only made it through because of the dogs. They were really great. Just imagine having dogs everywhere you look at school.
I would be okay with that.
We literally just talked with each other. We played Uno. We were just trying to do anything
But your
that was
schoolwork.
there.
I'd just be like, oh, I'm having a bad day. I need to go pet the dog. You're not right. Then I'd get out of schoolwork. That's what I'd do.
To feel okay because it was already very uncomfortable to be there in the first place.
What do you think was the most difficult part about returning to normalcy?
Having to deal with that emotional trauma has been the hardest part of returning to normalcy because there is no normalcy after that. It's just continuing forward, going to college and moving away and going to prom and doing all these things that are normal kid stuff, but it doesn't feel normal anymore.
Is there kind of that idea that there's before the event and then after the event in your memory timeline?
It woke me up to a lot of the problems that are happening in this country and that those things aren't going to get
She became political at this moment.
get done unless we, as the generation, actually talk about it.
Right.
That this is affecting us.
Did this experience have any unexpected psychological effects on you?
I was diagnosed with PTSD and I had to go to a counselor for a while. And there's no overstating like how difficult that is to deal with, you know. And so I think people need to give themselves some space and come up with a plan.
Have you noticed how like the guy seems more like sorrowful, like in his voice and mannerisms than the two girls?
Yeah.
Is that not?
Plan on how they can get better, but not be too hard on themselves.
I feel like many of us, after dealing with any traumatic event, will kind of feel like we need to kick ourselves into gear to just get things back to normal, but you really can't. Like, things don't ever go back to normal. You almost have to learn how to live this new way of living with that experience, with that trauma.
It's not like I'm totally healed and over it. You know, like I still cry when I think about my friends that we lost, or it's a very emotional experience, but it doesn't take up the same space. Like you kind of learn to work around it.
I do have PTSD, insomnia, anxiety, and depression.
I have insomnia. Not really. I'm not diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I do.
Couldn't have anything to do with caffeine you consume.
The fact that I was drinking this.
PTSD is like a 24-hour thing, 7 days a week, so I can't escape that. And depression, sometimes it can feel like it's year-round, sometimes it can feel like it's seasonal, but it's definitely at a higher level when we get to the month of February. Really thinking, what was I doing this day before this shooting? Like I was just like thinking back like how normal life was up until the 14th and how drastic my life has changed.
Was the 14th a Friday? We should look back at it and see if it was a Friday. Because I'd be like, so...
What?
Like Friday the 14th?
That's not a thing. It's Friday the 13th.
It's 13th? Oh shit.
But yes, I think Friday the 14th. I think it was a Friday.
Okay.
Let me look it up.
Okay. What year was it? Do you remember?
2018. Because I weirdly remember this day.
What?
Like,
why do you remember this day? Was your mom like, they had a shooting? What was your experience with school shootings, Jordan?
hold on. I'm trying to find the weekday. It's Wednesday.
Wednesday. It's Wednesday, my dudes.
No, I remember this because I was in 8th grade. And so, I was like starting to have a brain that could like comprehend what's going on in the world. And that day, Valentine's Day, they said we couldn't bring anything in. If we wanted to like give something to somebody, we couldn't bring anything in. And it was right.
Did you have a love interest to bring something to?
Yes. I had a girlfriend at the time.
I don't remember that.
Jackie.
Oh, well, this was in Bay City.
Yeah.
I don't remember when you were in Bay City or not.
So we went to school that day. We couldn't bring anything. I was frustrated about that. It was right after, not STAR testing, but the benchmarks.
Mm-hmm.
We'd taken those and we were having this fun day. It was supposed to be a grand time. And instead, they sat us like in the bleachers in the gym and we could come out and play games, like 10 of us at a time, but there was like 200 in the 8th grade class. So it was, and we weren't allowed to be on our phones either. So it was like this.
Bay City kind of whack.
It was, but it was this like terribly tedious and miserable day. Couldn't bring anything in. So like I was just overall frustrated and unhappy with the day. Thought it was the biggest problem in the world.
And
then I got out of school and I was sitting in the car outside the HEB in Bay City.
Uh-huh.
And over the radio, they're talking about this because it was such a big deal.
And you were just like, well, not that bad.
Yeah, and I was like, huh. Maybe there are like real problems in the world.
I don't remember it all. And I definitely heard about it. I was like, cool.
Do you feel the shooter received fair punishment?
Well, they killed themselves. So I'd say no, there is no justice for stealing a life. There's nothing you can do.
They just say Jordan.
I agree with him. Okay, I'm not laughing at him. I agree. Just the way he delivered. No,
No justice.
Changed.
Do you feel the shooter received fair punishment?
Well, they killed themselves. So I'd say no.
just the way he delivered it.
I want him to ask the question, what would you do if he was right in front of you? I want him to ask that question because I want to know his answer.
There is no justice for stealing a life. There's nothing you can do to make somebody whole again. And so,
Hear me out. Prosthetics.
That's not funny, Jacob. You're not right.
It may be
No.
a little less.
No.
It may be lighter weight.
Stop. No.
you can't focus on, this person needs to pay. There's nothing you can do. There's no payment ever. It's been robbed from you. And you just have to come to terms with that, like, that life's been taken. And we just have to, like, enjoy it and appreciate what we have in life and keep moving forward.
You know, it'd be like a really good movie.
What?
Like a person that just tracks down, like, people that, like, somehow knows, like, when people are going to commit a school shooting or something like that, like a shooting of any sort, and then, like, tracks them down and, like, kills them before they do it. I mean, not kills them, but, like, spray them with a wasp spray or something.
I don't think that'd make an interesting movie. I think what would make a really interesting movie would be, yeah, track those people down, but, like, figure out the root cause and, like, fix it.
Jordan, that's not a good movie.
It wouldn't be an action movie. It would be a thinking movie.
Well, I want it to be an action movie. It'd have to be action and
You didn't
comedy.
specify that. You just said
An action comedy movie with, like, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like, chasing after little kids that have guns, and they're like, "Get away from me, big old man!" And then he's just like, "Put that gun down." Bad. Jesus.
What's your major?
Film. Okay, let's continue.
Alive, and the trial has not begun. I actually did my deposition for the pre-trial 2 weeks ago, which was very, very, very hard. In the state of Florida, we do have the death penalty, so that is in question. And honestly, I don't know what I would like either. It's very hard to think about. And it's something that a lot of the victims' parents are also struggling with. A lot of people want death penalty. A lot of people want him to suffer inside of the jail.
Why do you think the deposition was so difficult for you to go through?
Going through my trauma, but going through my trauma in a completely different way. It's a different way to go through this experience in an interview rather than a deposition. Because in a deposition, they break down every small detail.
It must be really difficult knowing that in order to seek justice, many of you have to relive that trauma over and over and over again.
It's not just the students that lived it that's reliving it. It's not just the siblings of people that lost their lives. It's not just teachers. It's literally all of us, including the victims' parents. And those should be the people the most that should be trying to focus on, figuring out their new normal, but instead they're faced with reliving their traumas as well. And it's really hard.
Anna Vines wants to know if you knew the perpetrators beforehand and if there were any behaviors that they displayed that people should be made more aware of.
No, I didn't know him, but high school talks. So I did hear some stories that he would bring, like, dead frogs or lizards to class and, like, chop them up on the desk. There were signs. It's just
So, like, weird people. People that, like, bring, like, animal bones to school.
Yeah.
I know people like that.
Oh no. See the problem? Like, there's a reason they slip under the radar. Generally, if you see that, you're gonna be like, yeah, that's a little weird. But if we saw somebody do something weird and immediately jumped at their criminal, every time,
Yeah.
everybody would be in jail.
Not only that, but we get a bad rap for putting everybody in jail.
And like, society could not function.
Society.
If we were that suspicious of every single person, we could not function.
Yeah.
So that's why people slip through the cracks.
Society. Society calls me gay.
You know, certain people didn't do their jobs when it came to following up with these behaviors.
So I did know who they were, but I wasn't friends with them or didn't have any kind of relationship there. They had been arrested for kind of little small crimes, like breaking into a van or like setting off some explosives.
That's kind of red flags. I feel like that those type of people should be like, you know, in a juvenile detention.
For breaking into a car,
Yeah.
there's a big psychological jump between like breaking and entering and killing somebody.
Yeah.
Like a
but I mean,
big-
breaking and entering is still an illegal action, and I feel like there should be more of a punch. We could put him out to pasture, to work in the fields, the rice fields. I haven't slept very well.
I can tell.
One of the kids' moms found a sawed-off shotgun on his dresser. There were little signs that if people, I think, take it more seriously, like they could have stopped it for sure.
Did your school have any protocols or anything for this kind of emergency?
We had never done anything like that. We were just like reacting to a circumstance that we thought would never happen.
No, not at all, actually. We found out later that none of the security cameras worked in the school.
So they were up, but they did nothing?
They were just not running. And we had never done any active shooting, like exercises or anything. We had like the fire drills, the earthquake drills, but school shooting was never really thought of from where I'm from.
That week alone was pretty interesting because all week our teachers were telling us that we were going to have an active shooter drill. They are a band-aid on the real issue.
So, in her case, the guy probably knew that there's supposed to be a drill and like used that as a cover-up because
Probably.
he knew that people wouldn't be running.
Yeah.
They'd think it's a drill.
But what's so interesting to me between the two testimonies, between the guy from Columbine and this girl from the Florida shooting, is the immediate reaction. Because 1999, we hadn't had all of these big school
Yeah.
shootings. We hadn't had Columbine. We hadn't had like the Las Vegas stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have experience with like mass shootings going down. So when they heard loud,
Except for the Holocaust.
60 years earlier, 80 years earlier. So when they heard those large pops, they thought it was a school prank and went towards them. Because like fireworks were easy to get. That's a valid thought. But she heard loud pops and immediately was like, this is
Part of the drill.
Something's going down. Like this is a gun of some sort. Whether it's drill or not, but like her first thought was immediately a gun. And started reacting to that. While his was,
Where is Columbine?
I don't know.
Where is that?
Colorado.
Colorado. Okay.
So I thought it was interesting to see the difference
Well, I mean,
between the two of like with the number of shootings we've had since Columbine, the way she reacted. Because the middle girl's a bit unique. She came in like after the guy had already been shot, right? And he was already like kind of being dealt with. But it's interesting to see that she immediately thought it was shooting, and the other guy thought it was fireworks.
yeah, it was a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he's from Colorado, and she's from Florida. Florida and like the South is just known for like having more guns. So she's heard a gunshot before. She's probably been around guns before. I say
But
probably,
still, in
but
school?
like, no, not in a school. And she recognized that it was a gunshot. Like, he in Colorado, it's a little further north, may not have been exposed to like guns as much, and him not knowing what it sounded like may have contributed to that factor. Using my big brain college boy words. Okay.
Who is to say that the perpetrator doesn't also know these same policies? Because normally school shooters are students.
True.
So they know exactly what corner you're going to and where you're hiding.
What do you think should be done to prevent others from going through an experience like this?
We need to make our education system prosper that kind of learning where it's okay to talk about emotions. That if we can do that work now, hopefully that will help in the future.
I don't know if it's necessarily emotions. Some people are just freaking twisted. He was cutting up lizards and frogs on the table, homie. Like, I don't know if that was an emotional thing. I think that's just him being, like, twisted.
But if we made it if it was like generally acceptable to like talk about your brain, more people would have seen.
More people would have mental illness because it'd be more, like, widespread. Like, everyone would actually look into it. There's tons of people, even now, that don't, like, I've never been checked out for anything.
Yeah.
I probably have anxiety and maybe not depression, but like I probably have a little bit of anxiety and insomnia, but like I've never been checked out for it. So like I feel like that would just make a lot of people have more hospital bills or like doctor bills to go and get diagnosed and then get medication.
She's not talking diagnosis.
I know.
She's
but
not
like,
saying send people
no,
to the
I know
hospital.
that, but like being more open and doing all that encourages people to go and like get themselves checked out to see if they are mentally unstable, and everyone is. I don't think there's a single mentally stable person,
Okay.
like completely 100% stable.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it could cost a lot of money.
Gosh.
It's all about the money, honey.
No, she's saying.
I know what she's saying.
No, I don't think you do.
I do. If there were more ways to be acceptable and like talking about your feelings and stuff, that like people wouldn't feel outcasted and feel the need to do that type of stuff.
I mean, partly, but I think she's also saying that if you had more people talking about those emotions, you'd have more people listening to those emotions. So the dude that was twisted, cutting desks up or frogs up on his desk, more people would know he was doing that, and they could be like, "Hey, bud, are you okay? Like, how are you doing?"
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I understand her point, but like,
Sure.
I think a real way to solve this issue is making sure that we're having proper legislation in place that makes it harder for people that are deemed of harm to themselves or other people to obtain such lethal weapons. And I also believe that there needs to be an assault weapons ban. Clearly, we've seen at my high school 17 people in less than 6 minutes. There's no reason a civilian should need a gun with that much power.
Absolutely not.
But I think really folks that survive school shootings need to be in the forefront of this change.
How do you feel the U.S. government is handling the topic of school shootings and gun control?
They are terrible. So all of these different sections within gun violence are solved in different ways, but they all need to be within the conversation, and we know that our government does not do that at all. Majority of gun violence happens within marginalized communities of color. Black and brown youth bear the brunt of gun violence, and they're the people that deal with it day to day. Because I think legislation could be a way that we prevent mass shootings, but I don't think legislation would be a way that we.
I mean, this is old, like old stuff, but like getting rid of guns ain't gonna get rid of guns, like legally.
What the f*** is up, Kyle? No, what did you say? What the f*** is?
White
Shut the f*** up, man.
What's wrong with you, bro? What the hell? You tripping, bro? You tripping!
You got this, Travis. Make him wait for it. Boom.
trucker, dude. That hurt like a butt sheep on a stick.
Watch your profanity. Why are they following me, Mom? They're following me. Yeah, the bus.
The bug!
Excuse me? Daddy dinner. Oh, sorry, bye.
Wait, what?
Me dinner.
Bus.
The bug!
Excuse me? Wait, Daddy dinner.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, bye.
That's what gets you.
I ain't gonna never stop loving you.
I didn't hear you, Baloo.
That was like, if you think about it, that was actually like way ahead of its time. Like VFX, like in like stuff like this, like Vines, that wasn't a thing. Like nobody did VFX just for a 5-second clip for a Vine. I miss Vine.
Hurricane Katrina! More like Hurricane Tortilla.
So I'm sitting there, barbecue sauce on my titties.
Is it real?
Oh yes, King Bat. Hell yeah.
What did you say?
King Bat.
Marlene, your
love
speech
this
was
song.
so good.
Okay, because like, didn't even like try to look like improv.
Oh my God, why can't you just take the freaking call? Ah! When I say slavery, you say sorry. Slavery. Sorry. Okay, guys.
Good evening. I have an idea.
What would have been like this age of humor is if he slid down that and said, I'd like to talk to you about your car's extended warranty.
I still can't get over what you called his name.
King Batch.
Yo, it's spelled Kingbach. What's the famous composer from history where his name's spelled Bach?
Bach.
Yeah. King Bach.
Everyone calls him King Batch.
That's not right.
We're Googling things.
I'm gonna start calling the composer Batch and see how people say it. I just love listening to Batch in my free time.
I can't spell. See? Canadian American Internet Personality.
Yep.
What? Oh, I turned out slow. Sorry.
King Batch.
No! Yes! No! Yes! No! I'm leaving.
Boom! Yeah, leave. That's right. I was right.